Welcome to the Hansen Brothers podcast. I'm Timmy and joined by my brother Kevin. We are teammates and world champions in rallycross. This podcast is our space to catch up while traveling the motorsport world. If you missed the big news last time out, we announced that we are officially into the World Rallycross Championship 2025. Super exciting. I know it sounds kind of obvious that we will be there, but it was hard work behind the scenes. But now we're full on into preparation mode and getting ready for the season, which is very exciting. There's a lot of work going on downstairs. And today we thought we're going to talk about how we prepare. So the next thing that's coming up for us is an official test next week. And we are a bit late, to be honest. So how do we catch this up? How do we get ready for driving next week when the season begins?
All of that, I guess, feeds into also, the season prep. Obviously we're going testing. The season is getting very close. Like you said, we had quite a late decision to get in there and join in again. And obviously, like you said, some people might think that's an obvious, but it never is in motorsport. Motorsport is so up and down. So to enter the championship, maybe a little bit late makes us, in a position where we really need to speed up. But obviously that also is joined by all the work that we've done in the winter. And I mean, obviously we have been, traveling around different places. You have had E1 and stuff like that. How have you prepared, not knowing if we were gonna race or not race, into the season, while preparing yourself, physically, mentally, and driving wise as well, driving skill wise?
I mean, I think to start off with, like, the ideal preseason, we would have done, say, 2-3 test sessions so far this year with the whole team together and,
With the race
fine-tuning
car, yeah.
stuff. That would be the perfect situation. Like if you look at some of the others, of course we don't know the entry lists yet, so like we can't really discuss like how others have prepared. The only ones other than us that we know is Volvo for the moment, but we're just waiting for the rest of the grid to be announced. But yeah, they have been testing in secret, but it's kind of been leaked a little bit. So yeah, how do we prepare for this? It's not the easiest thing. Of course, you want to drive your race car. You want to do your sport to get ready for doing your sport. But in situations like this, like, we really have to rely a lot on the experience and like the routine of having done this for a long time. But in sports, that only gets you so far. It's like an extra benefit, but you still have to put in the work currently all the time. So of course we can do the easy things. We can train, like we can go on the bike, we can go in the gym. That's like a constant ongoing thing, and like mentally to be ready. I've tried to look into some of last year's onboards, kind of getting into the flow again. But yeah, all of the preparation that we've done is it's outside of race cars. So I haven't driven a race car in quite a while. Have you?
I think the only race car I've driven this year was when we went ice driving. I was supposed to have driven the Extreme Age car like in February, but that didn't happen. So I think this winter has been probably the least amount of driving, like almost any car, because normally we go up in like February as well to the ice. We do a bit of driving there. Just getting a lot of kilometers under our belt. So, any car car has 4 wheels always, and a throttle and a steering wheel and a brake. So the fundamentals are the same. They just have to work on your technique. So obviously that we haven't done. So we didn't do that this winter. We only went with one race car, did a day of doing passenger laps on an ice, which was obviously really, really nice. But normally when we go do that, we sit together, we work on certain things, we bounce ideas, we push each other on the ice to perfection. So I really miss that from this winter. But obviously we have done a lot of that. That's more like getting a bit up to speed or so. And I think that has really been something I think maybe this is our least amount of car driving we've done in any off season since we were young. So it's kind of a exciting thing to bring into a new new season. That's why also it's so nice to get 2 days of testing out of the season. It's the same with F1 drivers. They don't get to drive any F1 car in off season. They get like 2-3 days or a day and a half of testing before the first race. But obviously they do. They have an hour and a half or 2.5 hour practices where we get about 8 laps. So a little bit different for sure. But like you said to me, it's not only about driving, also physically. But have you found it difficult to maintain your motivation for what almost been now 7 months of no rallycross driving?
I've been very locked in the winter on like boat racing, so like that's most of what I've been thinking about. Like we had those 2 early E1 races, and there's a lot to figure out. We have, had those racing, and in the boat is still no secret. I have a lot to learn there, and training is kind of irregular. I just kind of enjoy training. It's not really something I need to be motivated to do. I enjoy doing my sessions, and I enjoy doing some progress. I train quite a lot for World Run, and got in good running shape. Now I have a bike race coming up in a couple of weeks, and I was on the bike yesterday. Found out that my bike shape is terrible. But yeah, like training anyway.
And now the panic for bike training.
Yeah, panic bike training. There's always panic training. No, but for racing cars, I think what you can do physically is to maintain like that base level. And rallycross is not a sport where the fitter you are, the faster you go. You just have to be fit enough, and you don't probably you don't even have to train at all. But then the race days probably become a bit more mentally challenging, and you get a bit more exhausted at the end of the day compared to if you're in good shape. Like if you feel good, if you feel like I've been working out, you feel good when you do that. So no, like all of the other things I think I've done normally, except for driving cars. When it comes to the team, like those things we've also done normally, like preparing the team, preparing the car. There is no big change this year within the team, but there are a lot of changes in the regulation. So the main thing being that we are now allowed to be a few kilos lighter, like 20 kilos lighter, which moves the center of mass a little bit in the car, which will affect how the car is working. We are also allowed to change our mapping a little bit more. We're more free with the mapping we can do. So we've been preparing and reading up on like manuals, very boring work, by the way, but like to understand how the car is really working and how to understand like these settings will be able to create this feeling at the end. And we're also allowed to change some diff settings this year, which we were not allowed before. And yeah, we've had regular meetings with the team, with the engineers, and of course downstairs working on the cars. And yeah, on that part we feel very ready. And engineers are great in our team. They also have that big bank of experience combined with some new engineers who are hungry, come with new ideas. So yeah, like I only feel that the only lack in preparation is you and me. So no pressure on us, I guess. But the car will be good. The team will be ready. Now, please drive fast.
Yeah, exactly. And which also is positive in the way in our situation that there aren't a lot of changes that we need to verify ourselves. They kind of are, changes that you just have to try a little bit on the test. There's not like, you need to change the full geometry of the car and redo everything like we did more in 2022. Or there's a full new software, you need to change the complete setup again of the car like in 23. So I think this must be the most stable regulation we had coming into a year since a couple of years now, which is also, I think, from our perspective, a very, very good point. But for sure, the more you drive, the more you learn, and the narrower and more precise you get your window. So I'm sure that Volvo has done a lot of testing and a lot of verifying their setups. Obviously, they weren't quick enough last year, so getting a lot more seat time, learning the car and stuff like that will be important for them to try and get that world title.
Yeah, but they were better than us starting the season last year. The first two races, they had a clear advantage on us, and it was kind of the same story then. Like they have prepared a bit better, they had tested more, and yeah, it paid off for them. The first 2 rounds they were really good. They had learned about the new tire. Oh yeah, by the way, the tire stays the Hoosier one, but we will get a softer dry tire now, so that will change things slightly. But I'm not expecting that to be a complete change and everything. Hopefully, we can rely on the things we found throughout last season, like mid-season, to still work. But also, you always have to progress. Like if you stand still in sport, it means that you get overtaken. So one of the big pressures I feel like from inside the team and technically is that we got one chance to find these new diff settings, and that then we have to lock that in for the rest of the year. So we have the 2 days of official testing to decide on what diff we want to use, and
Yeah.
then once we've done that, if we made a mistake, we're gonna pay for that for the entire year until we can change it for next season.
Mm.
It's a cost saving thing to not allow us to change diff every time. So like the FIA have said, like you homologate one setting and then you use that. But yeah, it does put a lot of pressure.
Just a question: is it the same for the petrol teams?
Yes, they also have
Okay.
to lock in one set of diff ramps.
Yeah,
And
because I remember, well, obviously back in the days when it was only petrol, then you could change diff ramps as much as you wanted, but that's not allowed anymore. Okay.
no, yeah, and they were allowed to choose whatever diff ramps they wanted for last season, and we were not allowed to choose. So it was like locked in from the Chrysler package, and I don't think that was ideal what they chose. So we have some new ideas now that we need to test and try to figure out.
In the end of the day, you can believe we've done many times. We believe so much before we go testing that we have found new things or a new opportunity will work, and then also many times we've been proven just that we should have kept the same as in the beginning. So it's going to be very fascinating to see. I'm sure Volvo has done a lot of testing on that. They maybe know if they're going to stick to the same or use the new ones. But we're a bit more. We have to trust the experience both of the team members and the engineers that have a lot of experience, and also the ones that are very skilled on the data, but then also like just our feeling as well behind the wheels. So it's gonna have to be a lot of trust and communication during these 2 days to make sure that we hit all the good developments. Like you said, after that we have to lock it in, and it's also like difficult for verifying one setup on one track when you have to go to so many different tracks, and even one track in the calendar we don't even know what it is yet. So it's like it's a big risk taking moment which one you go for, and it almost feels like the it will be the comfort way will and the initial feelings will be very important. So that's going to be a fun, but also like how we split them testing that on the actual test will be also fascinating. We're doing, I think, is a couple of days we're having another meeting to put up our full run plan and everything, which will be very fun to see exactly how we're going to operate, and because that's not in the end of the day our work, that or it is a bit more your work between the races, but in the end of the day that's engineering work, and they need to decide exactly what run plan they want, and then we go out there and deliver what they need to be able to puzzle everything together to get a good understanding, to choose which setups, and then we go for that's going to be I think a lot of fun.
it is always fun, and like the role of the driver, as you mentioned, like is varying between test and race. So I had an old engineer, still a good friend, used to say that in testing the driver is only another sensor, allows me to get information so I can tune the car. And then I told him that, okay, if the test day is for the engineer, then the race day is for the driver. So in the race day, engineer needs to adapt around the driver, and in the test, the driver needs to adapt around the engineers. That's how you get the best result in the end of the day. And I think we still go by that philosophy a lot.
I
Um,
think we do, yeah. It's because it's a very clear and structured way, and I think like back in the days when we had so much testing with Peugeot, we learned so much, and I think really now when we come into a season where we only have one test to to warm up everything and get into a good setup, and also for ourselves to get up and running, I think that will be very useful that we have that experience from so much testing, so we know together the structure that needs to be done, what to focus on, what to feel after, and also experience of just this car now and the softwares. I think we're in a good place to make a really good 2-day test. So the test is Tuesday, Wednesday next week. 2-day test. The EOT test will be going on at the same time with Andreas Backer going in and out of different cars constantly, and trying to gather data for that. And I think in the end of the day, we're gonna have a debrief podcast next week to speak about everything on the test. But what can we say more about the test? The track will be a completely new layout for us, which will be fascinating.
Yeah.
It's
I think
much.
we always record on Tuesdays, don't we? And
Yeah, but then when it's
we
released on
release on
Thursdays.
Thursday. So I think next episode, I think we should, like, if we bring the microphone and we record the episode like in the team, that would be kind of cool. And like we
Yeah,
are
for sure.
in the middle of it, like during the lunch break on Tuesday, we can record this podcast and kind of get everyone some insight into like what's going on. But it will, because we release on Thursdays, the test is technically finished. But yeah, we record a little bit earlier. But I think it will still be an interesting episode.
Let us know in the comments what you prefer, but we will try and make sure we get as much testing information as we can into that podcast to really have a good brief of what's happened and what's going on. And if you prefer to have the full recap of the test, let us know if you want it to be released a day later so we have time to make that happen, or if you want as much information as quick as possible, let us know as well. I think it's going to be a very interesting track. It looks like it's an epic track with a jump exit of turn 1, a really nice gravel section, and then just very clean, tidy tarmac driving in the end of the lap. So fascinating track also to go testing out when it's like a big full sand style,
Yeah, it looks super full send, like very high speed in the beginning, like nice flowing gravel corners, even a banked long turn. Wow, I mean, the track looks a lot of fun, and then ending with 2 very sharp hairpins, like iconic to Lousada.
And a very, very tricky joker lap, what it looks like, with kind of a long trail break into some sort of chicane hairpin. It's going to be fascinating to see how you can master that, because obviously a lot of turning and braking is not really what the electric car likes. So to see how it looks, how you can overcome the difficulties with the braking, especially also like turn 1. Have you seen that it's a downhill brake that increases the downhill into the apex while it's a long trail
And really
braking and
high
turning in.
speed.
It is, so like it's gonna be a real fascinating challenge for the for the
Yeah,
rear end.
I love those like long, deep braking zones when you can brake super late. And the electric car hates those braking zones
Yeah, so
when you have to like
the thing
brake
that you
deep
love
into
the
a corner.
most is
It's like I'm
impossible now.
fighting. I'm not I haven't agreed this with the car, but it's because we don't have the prop shaft and we lock the rears like
I
with the
wouldn't be
combustion
surprised.
car.
I
Wow, it
wouldn't be
was nice.
surprised if there would be a few moments where the rear snaps and there will just be a moment of full throttle trying to save it and blue smoke everywhere.
100% we will have that. Definitely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's get the
Yeah,
season started.
it's time to get it. So let us know, guys, what you want to hear from the test. If you want the full recap, if you want the quickest possible chat on after the Tuesday, we look forward to getting some on-track action chat into the podcast next week. Here we go. Season is about to commence.